Hi, everybody. Very happy to be here today with all of you. I am Alexandra Corijn, and I am a big fan of B Corp and B for Good Leaders. And I'm also the managing director of TWIST, which stands for Together We Invest in Systems Transformation. And with that hat on today, I'm really excited to be moderating these conversations because to go to a regenerative economy, we need big systems transformation. We need to go from a completely extractive economy, which I will not bore you about. You guys know the ins and outs of that because we all live in it. And we need to transition to a regenerative economy. And don't worry, I won't speak for 2 hours. We have lots of perspectives coming on stage and we'll move through them. And so the first panel, we're really going to invite in a whole diversity of perspectives. So not just business leaders, but on purpose, other perspectives, because we need to bring all these different perspectives together in order to create this new economy. So without further ado, I'd love to invite on my fellow panelists, Raki, Merlijn, Henry, and Annemiek. Yes, so like I said, we'd love to bring in some different perspectives that you might not have heard before. And I'd love to start with Merlijn, if that's okay, right here. You call yourself a creative researcher. You are in the worlds of creatives, and you also look to bring the creative and use that as a force for action. And so I'm really curious, maybe we're going to start out with a little bit of visioning to kind of ground us in terms of what does it actually mean to go to the regenerative economy? And could you maybe share your perspective on what that looks like and also kind of bring in the perspective of the creatives and what we could learn from that?
Yeah, great to be here. Good morning, everyone. The certificate on my diploma calls me a composer of music. Okay. So I used to work with orchestras, with choirs, and so on. So in music, step by step, I was exploring what is actually what I am doing. Of course, creating nice music, nice moment. Concerts have meaning. You come together, you feel, these kind of gatherings that are so meaningful and that actually are pretty rare if you compare it to how we used to live as humans, always in communities, gatherings. Every night there would be a gathering. And today we live in a total different world where we are individual, all like confetti spread around. So concerts are wonderful. But then step by step I thought okay, what does it mean, this music? And why is the audience this passive? So I started to experiment with really, interaction with the audience, but also to bring music out of concert halls. And I actually understood how music is a connecting force, not just of the people there, but also, actually in the world around us, all this, let's say, chaos that's happening, all the things, to find connections, to find meaning, and to postpone maybe the judgments or the interpretations and to experience those meanings, those relations. That became actually the search. And there, I didn't think of a work of art as the goal, but more as the process of making art as something that I would love to share with others, with let's say the non-artists or the people who don't call themselves artists, but to make sure that it's actually the attitude, the mindset of the artist that is very valuable for all of us. And we should not outsource this mindset to professionals. We should not just leave it to the musicians on stage to do this weaving of meaning, but this is a capacity we can really do ourselves. And then I thought, shall I bring maybe my violin today? Or, but what if for 1 minute I would ask you not to perform, not to sing, but to just close your eyes, to actually just, feel present, really basic. Just feel that you're here. and that we're here together, and the sounds around us, give a sense of the space, sense of maybe the others. And can we make just a wave of any noise? So out of the silence, can we start with some noises that you just make and just listen what happens if we build up this as a wave, and also it will also be gone. So it's a wave that comes and goes. Can we see what happens? Just let that, if you let it come. Okay, so I would not call this music. This is like a very rudimentary thing, but what I love to share is that this, let's say, chaos, this randomness, still, some of you might have think like, this is just weird. Others might have found ways to search for structure, for kind of harmony appearing, for rhythms that are there. And that is maybe the mindset of the artist, to embrace the chaos, the not knowing, the potential, and then to already start imagining the music. The music that's not in it, but beyond it. And there is a creative process starting. Mm-hmm. That's also how we might approach this world, the chaotic world, the world full of tensions and polarization. Do we hear the melody before it sounds? Can we hear the rhythm before there is a real beat? Can we imagine what is the potential? Well, that is the mindset of the artist.
Wow, love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love how you brought in the chaos and the coordination, actually, two different things. We live in a world of chaos, and how do we coordinate amongst ourselves, maybe in ways that we're not used to, or we don't know yet how. But this was a good exercise for all of us to tune in with each other. So thank you for that a lot. And I'd actually love to go to Raki next, if that's okay. I'll jump to the other side of the stage.
Sure, absolutely.
Raki, you what I find very fascinating about your background, well, many things. One is you bring an indigenous perspective to this, which is a perspective that's been missing a lot from this conversation. But also you have a foot in sort of the system, yes, working with the government here in the Netherlands and sort of working within the institutions, and at the same time in activism. So kind of rebelling against the system.
Yes.
And I just find that absolutely fascinating. And so I'd just love for you to speak a little bit about your vision of the regenerative economy, and particularly as kind of the perspective maybe from bringing in both, from within the system, but also the shift from outside of the system.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking the question, and also for B Corps for having me once again on behalf of Extinction Rebellion in this case. As you mentioned, yes, I work as civil servant under the Ministry of Interior, but mostly the people in the Netherlands know me, especially in the climate and anti-racist movement, as the indigenous activist. Why? Because my roots lies in West Papua. For those who doesn't know where it is, it's the western half of the island of New Guinea, right above Australia. It's the world's largest tropical island. Unfortunately, it's not only the home of the indigenous West Papuans. It's also the home of the world's largest gold mine, second largest copper mine, fossil fuel companies. Imagine that the world's largest gold mine is located right here in Utrecht. The reason I want to bring this here is because the number 2 of the 5 points is exactly what my task is within the climate change movement, or XR, which is the urgency of the moment. Because we understand the urgency, as Marcello mentioned, but I realized that we don't feel the same urgency. And that's where my storytelling comes in. Because imagine that the world's largest gold mine is located right here in Breukelen, nearby Utrecht. That this world's largest gold mine is destroying the entire ecosystem, toxicking the environment, and violating a lot of human rights. In this case, not those of the West Papuans, my people, but people in the Netherlands. And that 1/3 of you lost one of your family members, and the rest of you know one family member that has been lost because of these exploitations. This is the urgency that many indigenous peoples feel all over the world. But if you talk about the climate change, I think many of you have heard the last news items last week, that we are heading towards a 3 degrees global warming. I want you to realize that at 1.5 degrees global warming, we will lose 70% of world's coral reefs. That we have 10 million plus refugees and many species being lost. This urgency is what we miss here. And that's why I'm running, besides being a civil servant, besides becoming a dad, a neighbor. And all of you are doing the best you can. I understand it, I underline it. But we do not feel the same urgency. And that's why I'm really happy to be here, to bring the message that it's not enough. I want you to feel that 1.5 will hit your families, your culture, that you can't visit the graves because it's below sea level. Because that's what we're talking about. That's why I'm part of Extinction Rebellion and running beside my job, because I have the privilege to vote, to be here, and adapt to even 3 or 4 degrees global warming. I have that privilege. But many of the people in the global south, in West Papua, do not have that privilege. But we have the responsibility because we have a big pie of these carbon emissions. And that's why I'm really thankful for this opportunity, in the hope that we can work together with your assets, with your networks, to make this urgency felt all across the global north. So we can run double, because that's our task here. And I leave it there. Thank you.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. From chaos to urgency. And actually, it's a perfect segue. Actually, we talked about mining, and we have Henry Staal here from the company. You get to be the token business person on this panel, which I don't know that often happens. and you come from what was traditionally a mining company, and you've been in the transformation process of transforming that business and seeing how you might recycle what's already out there instead of. So I'd just love to hear from you. How you look at this transformation process and how you've been leading that. If you could share a little bit about that.
Right, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm not as deeply touched as you two are, the former speakers. A little bit different from how you introduced me is that we traditionally were a recycling company, a trader of non-ferrous. And we had a failing business model, in the sense that margins were decreasing, world is getting transparent. And our business back then was shipping all the material we bought from countries in the Western world to countries in Southeast Asia. And we transformed our business model into creating the market for circular metals. So we still collect a lot of post-consumer scrap, and we are now developing techniques to sort these post-consumer scraps into alloys, so that you can make any product out of it again. And this motivation was started with a failing business model. We worked together with the University of Delft. We got the techniques in place. And if I look at myself, I'm in the process of finding a deeper and a more intrinsic connection to the power we have now, because the technique is scalable, the technique is working. And my reason to be here is actually to connect with you, to find more inspiration for myself, to find more partners to work together with. Because if we want to make secondary metals to compete with primary metals, the primary product is a very well-developed market. So it's a tough competition. And you need partnerships with producers, consumers, and that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you maybe share a little bit about, just before we go to the next one, just the role of business in this urgency, in navigating the chaos that we heard? Like, what do you see as the role of business in this?
The role of business is... I see the role of business is to prove that there is a market. If there's a market, if you're making money, you will attract the attention of others. So there's people who are genuinely motivated by themselves. They will go no matter what. But a lot of people will just follow because there's a market there. And these markets, you can develop them. They are there. If I look at our company, our results are far better than they were as a trading company. So I think the role of business is to show the way to where you can make the money. And you can do both things. You can do good and you can make money. I think that's the leading role for businesses.
Okay, thank you. And Annemiek, you teach, so you actually research transformation processes and teach that at Nijrode. And you also sit on many, many boards. Yep. For a very long time, and from big ones to smaller ones, traditional again, and also in the new economy. And I'm just very curious. I know you can't sort of distill a whole semester's work of research into 2 or 3 minutes. But if you could share a little bit of your wisdom with this room in terms of what we can all learn in terms of how to transform. And also potentially a little bit about the role of boards in terms of what kind of governance is needed to actually do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I'm extremely happy that we're here today at Nijrode and that we are becoming a B Corp. So thank you, Koen, for taking this initiative. Because we are pushing this ball already for quite some time. And there are many here in the audience who also know what it means to push the ball. But we do that because we have a vision. And that is particularly something that is lacking in large part of society. We have a vision and we have endurance. And I think that that was also clear when Marcello said, when we first were busy with this kind of topics, it is indeed some years ago. I'm here at Nijrode, Professor for Strategy and Transformation Management. If you work on strategy, you must work on a vision. But a vision is not something you do alone. A vision requires engagement, collaboration, open-mindedness, being open for diversity, but also to include new perspectives, and then to weave it into a story. And I think the story of be a force for good can be a company, can be corporates, can be startups. But here at Nijrode, we also have a lot of organizations from the public space or from healthcare. And what we do, or at least what I do, is to stimulate one very important thing, and that is leave your ego out of the room. Because if you think you are your ego, you cannot collaborate. And for all the systems changes we have to work on, we have to think interdisciplinary. You can't do it alone. There's not one company, there's not one person who can do it alone. Mm-hmm. So we have to think collaboratively, be in for new insights. And therefore I teach networking and creating and building ecosystems, public-private, with very diverse compositions. it's important that we do not do that only here in a university. And to be honest, I never got 1 hour of research time in the more than 30 years I work here. Therefore, I've set up companies. My real research as action researcher is in my companies. There I go out and I do the very new things in a bottom-up approach, together with management, but to go beyond the obvious and always to establish a crowd of people, and we only need 15% of each company or organization, 15%, 1-5, who can go along with you. And with these people, we can roll the ball faster, but we also can bring in the content. And that's part of my work as well, to develop the right content. And with the content, we substantiate the vision we're going to. And I think that fits very well in where we stand for here at Nyenrode, for our values: leadership, entrepreneurship, and stewardship. And as said, I'm very glad we can push the ball in every lecture we give here at Nyenrode, because I know we have so many good colleagues. We were the first who established ethics in business already in the 80s. We were the business school with not one professor for sustainability, but several, and we collaborate. We are the ones who bring innovation, sustainability, systems change, leadership all together with examples, and we let the people talk themselves also in our lectures, because we learn from each other even more than only from the concepts and theories we make. And I think that that is so important, to leave your ego out of the boardroom and collaborate. Go out, find partners, do it together, move the ball, and make the change.
Amazing. Thank you. With that, I'd love to close the first panel. We heard about navigating chaos and also synchronizing with each other, the urgency of all of this that for what we need to do, creating new markets and leading the way in terms of creating those new markets. And I love that we end on leaving our ego behind, because if we actually want to do all of this, we need to leave our egos behind. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining me on stage and bringing your perspectives. And so thank you.